Hi everybody, Rad Mom here. Welcome back to the garden on this lovely summer evening where we're going to be jumping into part one of my analysis of Contrapoints' amazing new video. It was a long time coming, but boy was it worth the wait. Before we do that, please like the video if you enjoy my content and subscribe to the channel so we can all work together to drag feminism back into the real world, because unfortunately not everyone lives there. This video was released like right after my series on Jesse Gender that I did, and I had just been saying in the live chat, I think, gosh, whatever happened to that fellow Contrapoints anyway? He kind of dropped off the map, didn't he? Not that I looked or anything. Apparently he's been on Twitter. Who knew? And the first part of his video, we're not really there really isn't anything worth addressing in the first 45 minutes or so. It's mainly a history lesson about a lady named Anita Bryant in the late 70s and early 80s and her campaign against the gay rights movement. Anyway, he gives us the history lesson on Anita Bryant as framing for the J.K. Rowling thing, because apparently the witch trials of J.K. Rowling was the title of a podcast that he appeared on with several other people. It's quite a title though, isn't it? The podcast takes the idea of a witch trial for granted, I guess, and he is using his own platform to relitigate that idea. First, we're going to let him set up a key part of his argument.
J.K. Rowling's bigotry is exhausting to argue with, because she expresses it as an endless series of what are called Motte-and-bailey arguments. A Motte-and-bailey argument is named after a type of castle consisting of a motte, that is, a tower atop a mound or hill, easy to defend, and a bailey, a fenced courtyard that's much more vulnerable to attack, difficult to defend. So a Motte-and-bailey argument is when someone makes a provocative claim that's difficult to defend, the bailey. And then, when confronted with counter-arguments, they walk it back to a much less controversial and easy-to-defend version of the claim, the motte. And virtually every argument sophisticated transphobes make about trans people follows this pattern.
Okay, so we've established what a Motte-and-bailey argument is, and that he's asserting pretty much all gender-critical people use this debate structure, right? Sure. Oh my goodness, the bad faith here is just rampant. And a lot of the subtlety is missing. You know, the subtlety that he used to possess in some of his earlier work. The nuance, the impulse to empathy and understanding seems to be missing here. Apparently we're finished with that now. But remember that about the Motte-and-bailey argument, because it's going to become important here in a little bit.
Rowling has also attacked pro-trans politician Nicola Sturgeon, calling her destroyer of women's rights via a t-shirt she got from anti-trans hate-monger Posey Parker.
Ah, okay. We brought up Posey Parker for the first time, aka Kelly J. Keene, who is going to prove to be one of the most fruitful veins of our little discussion here. Where are Posey Parker's Motte-and-bailey arguments, Contra? Are you going to show us some examples of that? You know, this notorious debate structure that virtually all sophisticated transphobes use? We shall see.
She refers to trans women as trans-identified males, known as Tims among people for whom this has become an unhealthy obsession.
An unhealthy obsession for whom? Who exactly is it who has shaped their entire identity around the trans movement? Who was it who made a nearly 2-hour video on this topic? Who has an unhealthy obsession?
That's usually what we're talking about when we talk about J.K. Rowling, right? Whether it's fair to cancel her. That's what the witch trials of J.K. Rowling is about. The Rowling debate is a proxy for a larger question. Is transphobia a legitimate viewpoint worthy of polite consideration and respect in liberal, humane society?
What a loaded question. Is transphobia a legitimate viewpoint? I don't know. I don't espouse anything resembling that. But as we shall see, he uses transphobia to mean disagreeing with him, essentially. So of course you wouldn't think that's a legitimate viewpoint, because it automatically disagrees with you.
Peter is no longer a white nationalist, but that doesn't mean he's flushed out every trace of bigotry. In a 2019 interview with the London School of Economics student paper, Peter said,
"I don't like the whole transgender thing. You're born either a man or a woman."
So he maybe still has a little bit of work to do.
A little bit of work to do, because if you accept that black people are people, then obviously you're on your way to accepting everything that anyone says about themselves. Sure. I'm sorry, I don't think that follows. Not to mention the fact that black people exist. Okay? Without any medical intervention.
Yeah, it's easy for two straight men to have a dispassionate, theoretical conversation about the ethics of homosexuality because it's not their lives and their relationships that are up for debate. These people don't understand the emotional burden placed on marginalized people who are asked to defend their rights.
And you don't understand the emotional burden that women are placed under just in general, or the fact that, we are being erased in federal documents and bureaucratic wording, at the national level, in various countries across the Western world. And you're just sort of pretending as if that's not happening and we're imagining things, but no, that's happening. It has happened. And, you guys have done a really good job in a very short amount of time of demonstrating a lot of stuff that we were afraid of in the first place. So, again, it's really arguing in bad faith to sit there and act like you don't understand what we're worried about. I don't believe you. And another point of bad faith is that there are actually two different groups who are objecting to the trans movement here. And this is a key point. This is one of the bad faith arguments that trans rights activists make all the time. And here we go.
I'm a deeply religious man, and my religion says man and a woman, that is the basic building block of family. And that's what I believe, but I also know God created you just like he created me, flaws and all.
You see, and this is what I'm talking about. There are two different camps basing their objections in two very different schools of thought, okay? You have here Glenn Beck demonstrating an example of the religious objection camp. People like me, J.K. Rowling, and Kelly J. Keene, I believe, belong to the material objection camp. And never the twain shall meet, really. It's very rare to find anyone who's a member of both clubs. All right? So, trying to write off the objections of everyone based on the fact that conservative stupid is so incredibly disingenuous. Contra is not arguing in good faith here at all anymore.
If we're trying to understand the role of reason and emotion in de-radicalization experiences, I think this experience is usually more akin to religious conversion than it is to logical reasoning.
Well, you can't reason someone out of a position they did not reason themselves into, I guess, would be what you're saying, maybe. And true enough. I don't know. And I think his defense of the emotional argument here says a lot about his approach. His current approach, anyway, to this topic.
Public debate is one way that we define the limits of the Overton window, the range of beliefs that are socially acceptable to hold. So often people who want to promote bigotry will use debate as a foot in the door. It's a way of establishing that their prejudices are within the realm of reasonable and socially accepted opinion.
Yes, this is a well-established tactic, that's true. I think that it's been very famously used by the global warming is a myth crowd, right? We have to give them equal time in the debate alongside the ecologists who are telling us how global warming is a fact, right? That was a great idea. And your own movement has used this tactic in years past, where they just wanted to pee. They just wanted to be included, right? They just wanted to be let into the conversation. Now suddenly they want to stop the conversation. I wonder if that has anything to do with the changes in the wording of the documents that I was talking about earlier.
Having the debate on a bigot's terms is not a good way to win people over.
Yeah, I'm sure you wouldn't want to have this debate on anyone's terms but yours. Defining terms is not exactly your school of thought's strong suit, is it? So, maybe we should define some terms. How well do you think you'd do in that round of the debate, Contra?
Rowling objects to the slogan, no debate, in the strongest possible terms.
And then we come to the famous two-word slogan, the stock phrase, no debate, no debate, no debate. We hear it all the time. That alarms me, really alarms me. I can't think of a purer instance of authoritarianism than no debate.
It's kind of amazing to me that someone could think angry trans people on Twitter are the purest example of authoritarianism.
This may be the purest example I've seen yet of Contra arguing in bad faith, alright, because she was referencing a slogan. And the nature of that slogan, not the people on Twitter, not everything is about Twitter, okay? And you just completely dodged that. The thing about no debate as a slogan is it is straightforwardly anti-democratic. No debate, no democracy. Fuck Western values, right? Because you want to be a woman. These, are really just incendiary ideas, incendiary comments that he's making here. And he used an extremely bad faith argument to get there. So what does that tell you?
I surely hope that one day I am privileged enough to be capable of such a perspective.
Says the white man. This is all so absurd.
One of J.K. Rowling's core complaints about the trans rights movement is she sees it as illiberal in its methods.
So when I first became interested and then deeply troubled by what I saw as a cultural movement that was illiberal in its methods.
So what are these illiberal methods?
If you are saying this person is cancelled, that is the language of a dictator.
It's true. Cancel culture is exactly how the Third Reich started.
I mean, yeah, pretty much. They canceled whole groups from the societal ledger to become non-people, right? Pretty much. Am I missing something here?
But maybe we should see what an actual dictator thinks.
Пресловутая культура отмены превратилась в отмену культуры. Не так давно отменили и детского писателя Джоан.
Yeah, cancel culture is so stupid and toxic that even Vladimir Putin knows better than to associate himself with it. I feel like you're making my point for me here.
Rowling seems to think that the trans rights movement is dangerous and authoritarian in some unprecedented way that makes it different from all past liberation movements. But how? What are these illiberal methods that distinguish trans rights activism from similar past movements? Canceling? Anita Bryant was way more cancelled than J.K. Rowling ever will be.
Yeah, because you guys can't touch her like that. She's way too successful and famous for you guys to ruin her life like that. I get the sense that really, really frustrates y'all sometimes. Cry me a river.
A bunch of lesbians who attended the Second Congress to Unite Women in 1970 to stage what used to be known as a ZAP, a disruptive public protest designed to draw attention to gay rights issues. Think glitter bombing, think pies, half aggression, half whimsy.
Half aggression, half whimsy is how I take this next bit, because this is pretty wild, and I can only assume that he is half joking?
This podcast has pushed me over the edge. Centrism has gone too far, and I am now pro-cancel culture.
Ooh, damn. And we're gonna compare, lesbians excluded from the women's movement to trans women excluded from the women's movement. But yet turning off lights and taking the podium at a meeting is hardly equal to pounding on windows and chanting threats, as far as the level of aggression goes and the level of intimidation. That's not how you get included, fellas. And again, gay people exist without medical intervention. Homosexuality does not require medical treatment. So, they're not the same.
The podcast cites 0 examples of death threats and abusiveness from anti-trans bigots. And it's not exactly like you have to dig deep to find any. I can fill the screen up with examples just from people who J.K. Rowling has explicitly supported or interacted with.
Yep, emotions are running high on both sides, but who started this? Who was it that came along and said that unless everyone acquiesced to their requests, they would kill themselves? My recollection, it was not the feminists who started this flame war. So, you don't want to fight, don't pick one. Hell hath no fury, remember? But then we come to the one point with which I do wholeheartedly agree, but it is something that is, I think, applicable across the board to any position in any debate.
But threats like this from the gender-critical side are simply not mentioned in the witch trials of J.K. Rowling. Both Rowling and Megan seem happy to cherry-pick threatening tweets and sound bites of shouting protesters as evidence that the trans movement is dangerous and insidious to the core. But this exact technique has been used against literally every liberation movement in world history.
When you ignore bad behavior or weak spots on your own side, all you do is weaken your own position. When you refuse to acknowledge strong arguments by the other side, you weaken your position. That's true for anyone. Cherry picking weakens your argument. It does. But you want to talk about cherry picking because you're ignoring an entire segment of your opponent, of your opponent's group. Okay, you're just pretending we don't exist. So I don't know what you call that. That's way bigger than ignoring an idea. Right? Ignoring a strong point. You're just ignoring an entire giant group of people. Mostly women, of course.
Is that a fair representation of the women's movement? Should we judge every movement by its most militant extremists? Is it fair, say, to pretend that Valerie Solanas, who shot Andy Warhol, who advocated for male extermination in her Society for Cutting Up Men manifesto, is representative of feminism as a whole? Many anti-feminists over the years have done exactly that. But it's not fair, is it?
That's a good question, and that's something else that I've been grappling with lately. I think the way that I phrased it was, is a movement responsible for the extremists in its midst? Okay? And I'm pretty sure he's arguing no here. You know, Valerie Solanas is clearly not representative of feminism as a whole. So, to add on to that, if we're not going to judge a movement by its extreme adherence, how about by the ideas that they espouse? The women's movement is built on the idea that women are people. The trans movement, especially from Contra's perspective, is built on the idea that men can also be women. Who's extreme here? And I think the contradiction becomes very evident when phrased in such simple terms. You know, women are people. That's right, and men can be women too. No, that's not what we meant. That's not what we meant.
The reason trans people are often reluctant to debate our rights is that we want the same assumed protections as other groups whose rights liberals have decided are not up for debate.
That's right. They don't want to debate because they want their rights and their existence to be assumed. They're winning, so it's time to shut it down, guys. They don't want debate, they want blind acceptance. No. You know, he invokes Andrea Dworkin several times in this video, and that's just fun. You know, kind of strikes me as disrespectful to, you know, somebody who was clearly on the side of women as a sex class, to my view anyway. You know, come at me in the comments if you disagree. Apparently her ex-husband does. But everything I've seen of hers indicates to me that she was really, all her writing is focused towards women as a sex class. So, yeah.
In Dworkin's analysis,
the political right makes certain metaphysical and material promises to women that both exploit and quiet some of women's deepest fears. No one can bear to live a meaningless life. Women fight for meaning just as women fight for survival.
So, here Andrea Dworkin is describing the social structure of organized religion. And the key word there is metaphysical. All right? The political right makes certain metaphysical promises to women. That's before material in the first sentence of her thesis that you're quoting here. And we're going to get to watch him just completely ignore that bit.
The gender-critical movement offers women a brutally simple understanding of sex and gender. A woman is an adult human female. Right-wing anti-trans activist Posey Parker has made this phrase into the motto of the gender-critical movement. Presented with the authority of a dictionary definition, it's rigid, it's orderly, it's immutable. There are no exceptions, there are no blurred lines, there can be no change.
Yeah, I'm sure that's your least favorite definition in the whole wide world there, Contra. It is immutable. Yeah. A lot of good definitions are. It's really sort of the nature of such a thing. If it isn't, it's not a very good definition. But, where are Kelly J's Motte-and-bailey arguments, Contra? Where's the flaw in what she says? It offers a rigid definition, but it is not a metaphysical definition by any means. Okay? Because now we're talking about the other camp material objection. Okay? That's why we're so concerned with the material definitions of stuff.
This mantra is a defense against the conceptual instability and chaos that gender criticals fear. The same fear that once drove homophobic women like Anita Bryant.
Just biologically, that God made mothers so that we could reproduce. Homosexuals cannot reproduce biologically.
Erasing the concept of sex removes the ability of many to meaningfully discuss their lives.
That's actually a really interesting juxtaposition of Anita Bryant invoking God and J.K. Rowling talking about the material reality of women's lives. They're looking in the same direction, and that's about it. You demonstrated right there the two different camps that you're ignoring and pretending don't exist. So, thank you for lining those up back to back like that. Mwah. Beautiful. You've illustrated there really well the difference between the two camps that you're pretending does not exist. Interesting choice.
Without childbearing, women know they have nothing. Homosexuality for women means having nothing. It means extinction.
What about the many lesbians I have become acquainted with in the gender critical movement? They're overrepresented on our side, anyway. Okay? A lot of them are disillusioned former lefties who had to leave the gay rights movement because people like you have completely taken over it. What about them? I don't think they're worried about lesbianism causing their extinction. I think they're worried about the extinction of lesbians, because if sex does not exist, then neither does homosexuality. Logic.
J.K. Rowling's definition of woman is this.
The woman is the producer of the large gametes.
The producer of the large gametes. Rowling says her primary concern about young trans men is the loss of fertility.
Where does she say that? I haven't listened to the whole podcast. It's 8 episodes long, apparently. But I don't think that he actually quotes her as saying that. Expressing concern about something does not mean that it is your highest concern. But, your fertility is important to a lot of women. Not that I would expect you, a man, to necessarily understand that. And you say nothing about sexual function. Okay, because the funny thing about taking a scalpel to your nether regions is that they don't necessarily know where all the nerves are, and a lot of people who have undergone bottom surgery end up with sexual dysfunction and this horrible thing called anorgasmia, which, used to be the purview of frustrated middle-aged women, right? You want to be a woman? Well, congratulations, you're never going to orgasm again.
Homosexuality, its rise in public visibility, attempts to socially legitimize or protect it, makes women expendable. The one thing women can do and be valued for will no longer be valued. Male homosexuality is especially terrifying because it suggests a world without women altogether, a world in which women are extinct.
A world without women is an idea at which I laugh. Good luck, fellas. Really? Good luck. What is this? This is supposed to intimidate me.
This exact fear appears frequently in gender-critical rhetoric. Trans activists are erasing women. They're erasing biological sex. They're going to call us pregnant people.
They do call us pregnant people. Like, this has been in speeches made before Congress. This is in official language in federal documents. Not to mention, things like the Midwives Association, who are still allowed to call themselves wives, but refer to their patients as pregnant people. Yeah, where you been, man?
As a woman, I feel threatened because biological men are aggressively replacing women.
You will not replace us!
Yeah, Marjorie Taylor Greene exists. Congratulations. She would be an example of one of the few women on the other side of the objection camp. The religious objection camp. She regularly invokes the Christian God, okay, and centers a lot of her platform around that kind of stuff. She's not one of us.
I am fascinated by this thread. I think it's one of the most revealing texts in gender-critical history. Because you know what? Maya Forstater actually does have valid concerns.
Yes, women have material concerns. This is the crux of the whole thing, actually, okay? Reproduction creates the future society, and women have been struggling more and more with this without our community networks, okay, between women, which we can't build if we can't meaningfully discuss our lives, like J.K. Rowling was talking about.
But the concerns she has that are valid have nothing to do with trans people.
Oh, yes, they do.
Honestly, reading this, I have some concerns. Concerns like, where is Maya's husband? I know she has one. Isn't raising children supposed to be a mutual project? No one should have to feel this alone raising children.
Yeah, again, women have real material issues that we deal with that you just don't know anything about. And you don't care to know anything about them. Clearly, because you're just mocking her for being upset about something you don't understand. How revolutionary.
Isn't what's going on here that Maya is taking legitimate feelings of being overburdened and underappreciated and displacing those feelings onto transgender people?
No, because trans ideology is just another layer of the same shit cake women have been forced to eat for ages. It's a men's rights movement. And a lot of us can see that. And you just writing us off, all of us, with the conservative, with the Christian right, is so incredibly disingenuous. Especially this late in the game. You should know better.
This is exactly how the gender-critical movement recruits, by providing a scapegoat to frustrated women. It's not your husband's neglect, it's not the increasing atomization of society, it's not the indignities of aging.
It might be all those things too. But you wouldn't know, and you're not helping. Because you clearly don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and you don't care to. You don't care to learn about it, either.
Mumsnet is the hub of the resistance to non-binary cartoons. It's too much. These people are too much. Okay, we have to be serious now.
Here we have a white man mocking the concerns of a woman of color because he doesn't understand them. Bravo! So much progress, right?
Women fear and resent male violence, which they're most likely to experience from the men closest to them. Boyfriends, husbands, and fathers.
They're most likely to be killed by sexual partners.
But the need to survive in a male-dominated society means that women's legitimate fears and resentments often cannot be directed at the men with power. And this displacement of rage is just transparently what's going on with J.K. Rowling.
No. You are also a man. If people are upset with men as a group, you're going to be included in that. Whether you want to be or not. There are certain things about our lives we just don't get to choose. My brain is melting. The trans movement as a scapegoat against male violence, it is an extension of male violence. You have just demonstrated that for us. Thanks. I guess we do know why he doesn't bring up the whole white beauty standards thing. Right? And just like Jesse Gender, he's got some really heavy, dark, incendiary ideas going on here. Okay? And this one has 1.7 million subscribers. We all know Contra's wicked famous, right? 3.6 million views in the last month. We have to address this stuff. This is scary stuff. And not even from the idea that men can't be women. Like, even beyond that. Like, just as an individual. This person is saying some really dangerous stuff. And Jessie Gender was too. You know, under this guise of, oh, poor me. The poor trans people were so afraid. Meanwhile, I'm getting the distinct air of, hey, hurry up and shut it down while we're winning. All of a sudden, y'all don't want debate after insisting that you just wanted to be included? That's interesting. That's convenient, isn't it? I have been Rad Mom out here in the garden. Thank you so much for joining me for part 1 of our deep dive into the Contrapoints video that came out recently, because, man, I've forgotten just how much fun he really can be. Like the video if you enjoy my content, and subscribe to the channel so that we can all work together to drag feminism back into the real world, because a lot of people don't live there, unfortunately. Join us tomorrow at 11 a.m. for the live stream and discussion, and next week for part 2, where, again, the second half is where all the really good stuff is, where all the real just nitty gritty, where all the money is. Okay, like some of this just wild stuff, really. So join us next week for part 2, and tomorrow at 11 for the live stream and discussion, and I will see y'all there. Thanks a lot. Bye.